Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry here, welcoming you back to the GOTEI 13! That's good water. Lieutenant Discussion Series! Last time we had a good one. We talked about 10th Division Lieutenant Rangiku Matsumoto. I'm just gonna put her picture up here in case you forgot what she looks like, because honestly, that happens to me quite a bit. You know, sometimes I forget what Rangiku has to look like, so I have to just, you know, look at a picture to make sure. He's like, oh yeah, that is indeed what she looks like. Yes, okay. So, while Rangiku is probably the most prominent female cast member of the Lieutenants, at least in the original iteration of the Lieutenants, there's a lot of other leading ladies, and we're gonna be talking about another one today. She might not be as prominent as Rangiku, but she is taller than Rangiku. She's taller than probably a lot of the other members of the GOTEI 13, and this is, of course, ISANE Kotetsu, 4th Division Lieutenant, and by the end of the story, spoiler alert, she succeeds Retsu Unohana to become the next captain of the 4th Division of the GOTEI 13. So, hey, that's something Rangiku doesn't have. Rangiku didn't become the captain. She was still the lieutenant under Toshiro 10 years later. Isane picked up the slack after Unohana got into a bloody melee with Kenpachi Zaraki to unlock his true potential in the depths of the prison, and I'm spoiling a lot of the Thousand Year Blood War arc at this point. But, of course, Unohana didn't die or anything. No, she retired. Yeah, that's what happened at the end of that fight. She retired. Her and Kenpachi Zaraki, they still get together every now and then to have a nice dinner, you know, but it was just, she was getting on in years. She had to retire, and so Isane just took over after Unohana. Okay, so yeah, Isane, yeah, she's not very prominent in the story, and the thing is, though, it makes sense because she's a member of the healing division, right? And so, you know, even like Hanataro, who was a very prominent member during the, you know, the Soul Society arc, after that, Hanataro is even kind of like, you know, pushed to the background. Like, whenever we see him, he's usually doing the things that the 4th Division does. Like, he's healing people with Kido or Kaido. You know, Kido is Demon Way, Kaido is the Turn Way. Alright, it's the healing aspect of that. So, you know, Hanataro, he popped up a little bit during, you know, the Arrancar arc to help out Byakuya. Help out is kind of, you know, you saw what happened there. It's not so much helping, but he tried his best. But after that, we usually only see him in fillers, or he's like, you know, in the medical division, like healing people during the Thousand Year Blood War arc, and it's kind of the same deal with Isane. Yes, she is a lieutenant, but, you know, kind of keep in mind the way that it was said during Soul Society, even though the 4th Division, you know, they still have the same ranking systems as all the other, you know, squads and everything, like lieutenant, third seats and all that. Even the higher ranking officers of that division are often looked down upon because it's a healing division, especially from like the 11th squad, right? Now, you know, Unohana is still a badass no matter what. You don't want to piss her off regardless of who you are. But aside from Unohana, you know, the lieutenants and even the seated officers are kind of looked at like, you know, you're the medical division, okay? You can't fight. Yeah, you might have zanpaktou. Yeah, you might know your shikai, but you can't hold a candle to the combat division like the 11th squad. You know, regardless of the fact that like the 11th squad get beat down, and then because they're like the vanguard unit, who's gonna patch them back up again? There you go. I remember that one scene during the Soul Society arc when Ganju and Ichigo took Hanataro hostage, and it's just like, if you don't let us through, we're just gonna cut his head off. And all the 11th squad members just start laughing like, we don't give a crap! Medical division, why do we even need one of those? Yeah, everybody knows that we random squad members of the 11th division are absolutely invincible! Hell yeah, man, that's exactly what I think! You know? You know, so, you know, it's just, that's that little, like the interrelationships that each of the squads have, right? And so, for that reason, you know, Isane, she went to Hueco but she was there for more of a support role, and so she showed up after the fight with Zomori and Byakuya to, heal them up and everybody like that, but, you know, she's not going to get involved in a direct confrontation with one of the Espada, or one of the, you know, there's Fracciones, or, you know, Isane's gonna go up against Aizen, yeah, like, it's just not set up for that. That's not what she does, okay? She's there for support. Remember that scene when they showed up to Hueco Mundo? It was Unohana and Isane there, and Ruta Born, the member of the leader of I used to be able to say it, but Exhikius, I think, the Executioner Squad, right? So Unohana shows up, the Executioner Squad's there, Ruta Born's there, and he's just like, so, are you a captain? And she's like, yes, I am, but I desire not to fight. Rudeborn was smart. Rudeborn was smart. He just decided to turn around, I think. You know, it's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna mess with you. He's like, that's a really good decision. And it's like, that's amazing. Good for you. And then Rudeborn just turned around, right? I don't think Rudeborn tried to fight Unohana. I was like, God, no, why would you, right? Plus, I think if Aizen was smart, which, okay, Aizen is smart, but that's just, it doesn't depend on Aizen if he's intelligent, it depends on if he gives a crap about his subordinates, which he really doesn't. Like, if Aizen, after he took the throne of Huecamundo, you think one of the first things he would tell the Espada is like, here are the Shinigami you need to watch out for. Like, if the Shinigami ever launch an invasion into Huecamundo, or if we ever encounter them, like the Espada or any of the Executioner squads, if you encounter Shunsui, Uketake, Kenpachi, Unohana, Yamamoto, if you encounter any of those 5 captains, you're probably going to lose. Like, even the strongest Espada, like Stark, you're probably going to lose. Alright, he should have warned them beforehand, but I don't think Aizen cared enough to, so he probably didn't. Right, but at any rate, we're talking about Unohana already, but Isane is like, you know, the right hand of Unohana, much like how Chojuro was with Yamamoto, right? Okay, because this division is not about fighting. This division is about healing, okay? And healing is a little bit different when you're a Shinigami. It's not just like go to the hospital and get bandaged up or whatever. You gotta learn a very specific aspect, subcategory of Kido called Kaido, alright? And I'm imagining that's not the kind of thing that you can just like read a book and just be like, okay, yeah, you can fire a Shakaho or a Sokatsui, you can heal, you're fine. It takes a completely different set of skills, probably a different way that you use your Ryatsu in order to heal people. It's a little bit complicated, and it was never really fleshed out entirely in the story how Kaido works. We didn't even get a name for what healing Kido even was until the very, very last arc when Unohana was fighting Kenpachi. We finally learned the name Kaido, right? So, you know, my point is here is that, you know, Isane's not just a lieutenant like, oh, you can fight good, so you're a lieutenant. No, you are going to be my successor, Isane, okay? Unohana's like, I made you lieutenant because I see promise in you. I see that your skills with healing Kido, with Kaido, are good enough that someday when I'm not around anymore, and Unohana, this is even more important because Unohana has been the captain of the 4th Division for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Like the first iteration of the GOTEI, she was there. Now, granted, back then she was the leader of the 11th Division, she was the original Kenpachi, so she was much more into combat, but whenever the 4th Division was created and she decided to lay down her sword and dedicate her life to healing, you know for a fact she was the first and only captain of the 4th Division right up until her death. Okay, so this is Unohana we're talking about here. One of the best warriors in the entire Soul Society and the best healer, hands down. She personally selected Isane Kotetsu to be her lieutenant and, you know, setting her up to be her successor. Okay, so already that's a huge amount of responsibility, and the weight on Isane's very tall shoulders is probably immense. You know, this is also very topical because of the Resident Evil meme, the Resident Evil Village game, and the giant vampire lady. Granted, the giant vampire lady, I believe, is like 9'5", and Isane is only 6 foot 1.5 inches tall, 187 centimeters, so not quite JoJo level, but getting there. So yeah, by the way, I've never played a single Resident Evil game in my entire life, but yeah, I feel like I'm gonna start now. I couldn't really tell you why. I just felt like, you know, this is probably the best time for me to pick up a Resident Evil game right about now, you know, for no particular reason, right? So, anyway, yeah, that's the responsibility Isane has, okay? And you can imagine it probably makes her a little bit stressed out. She does suffer from nightmares quite a bit. There was that one time she had a nightmare about, like a Japanese type of, like, fish cake or something, and she woke up, like, terrified, like, fish cakes! The fish cakes were everywhere. I just didn't. So she has, like, not even, like, nightmares, like, straight-up night terrors. Like, she literally wakes up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night. Fish cakes! You know, and so she can't go back to sleep after that. So that nightmare about the fish cakes, that must have been pretty freaking intense, right? This was after the Soul Society arc. This was after Aizen and Gin and Tozen defected, and everything was going on, and no one knew what was going to happen next and everything, and the Hogyoku got stolen. She wakes up, not having a nightmare about Aizen, not having a nightmare about all the captains leaving, or the Soul Society burning down or anything. She has a nightmare about fish cakes. Maybe the fish cakes were burning down the Soul Society. I don't know. And then she walks out, and she sees Unohana Unohana there in the barracks late at night in her kimono, just kind of sipping tea, and she's very motherly, she's very kind to everyone, Unohana, and she's like, "Oh, Isane, come and sit down and relax, and then when you calm down, you can go back to sleep." And Isane's like, "Thank you, Captain, you're so kind," and so, yeah, and then later on when we find out about Unohana's true nature, wow, that was a flip, wasn't it? All right, so on top of being very prone to night terrors about fish cakes, she's also very self-conscious of her height. That's probably her most defining character trait that we learn through supplemental material, because she has okay, she has screen time in the story. I don't want to say she's like Shoujo, where she barely shows up at all. You see her quite a bit. She appears in every arc, every filler arc, she's there. But she doesn't really do much, is the thing. I think during the Zanpaktou filler, we don't even get to see her Zanpaktou in the filler. The Zanpaktou filler, she uses Kido a few times to attack Ashisogi Jizo. I remember that. In the Thousand Year Blood War arc, she's there with Yachiru when Gremmy attacks, Stern Ritter V, the Visionary. There's a moment there in that arc where I thought we were going to see a little bit of what she could do combat-wise, but we just never do. So she's there. We see her a lot, but she's just there to heal characters, and, that's not really interesting in terms of, the shonen battle manga. We see her healing people. Okay, good, she's doing her job, but beyond that, we don't see much. But she's very self-conscious about her height. Her favorite food is porridge, and that's the reason for that is because she heard once that porridge has very low amounts of nutrients, so she's like, cool, if I just eat nothing but porridge, then I won't get any nutrients and I won't grow any taller. And that was when she was 170 centimeters, and now she's 187, so that didn't work out too well. Also, the reason she has the night terrors and her sleep schedule's messed up is also might be because she heard that if you sleep a lot, you'll grow taller, so she decided to just not sleep at all. Oh, okay, I'm only gonna get 2 hours a night, and so maybe that's why she has the night terrors. I'm not really sure. But hey, don't worry, Isane, it's okay, because I don't think anybody is going to have a problem with you being very tall. If the Resident Evil thing is anything, plus that beach episode, remember the beach episode and the bikini? Not even really a bikini, it was a one piece, but it had a giant open window in the front of it. Yeah, I like that beach episode. Did you guys like that beach episode? I like that beach episode. Okay, but at any rate, yeah, that's Isane. So she's really tall, she has night terrors about fish cakes, she is the successor of all the healing knowledge that the Soul Society really has to offer. Everything that Korinji taught Unohana passed down to Isane, and now she's the new captain of the 4th Division. She has a sister. Her sister is ISANE Kotetsu, who is the co-third seat of Uketake's 13th Division, alongside Sentaro, and then after the time skip, after the story is completed during the epilogue, we see that Kione is now the lieutenant of Squad 4 next to Isane, so that's cool. The sisters are, heading up the healing division, and I'm imagining Kione knows quite a bit about Kaido now as well, so that's cool. She changes her hairstyle a bit, which I like, and she still has she has these 2 little braids, that's her hairstyle, that's kind of what she likes. So yeah, fish cakes, tall, hairstyle, 4th Division, Kaido. Yeah, that's pretty much everything about Isane. I guess that's the video. Oh, her Zanpaktou, right? Okay, shit. Yeah. So yes, Isane does have a Zanpaktou right there. It's right there. Her Zanpaktou, and she even has a shikai, and we even got to see it once. Her Zanpaktou is Itegumo, which translates out to frozen cloud, okay? And so she used this shikai against Ichigo. She was one of the 3 lieutenants next to Marechio Almeida and Shojiro Sasakibe that went after Ichigo after he arrived at the Sokyoku and saved Rukia, and he's there. And then so they go and charge him, and she releases her Zanpaktou. Its release command is run, Itegumo! And so it's one of the more basic Zanpaktou releases. You have a regular katana, right here, I have, my sword here, the Great Duck Slayer, okay? So you got her sword here, and then when she goes into her release, it just takes 2 more swords that are a little bit smaller, about this tall, and it just splits out at a 45-degree angle, so it's so she's got not really like a trident or a pitchfork, because it's not like laid out kind of like that, not like Kayen's Nejibana, so it's more at the base here. So she's got like a W sword. She's got a W sword! She takes the win with the mighty W sword! And given the fact that the name is Itegumo Frozen Cloud, I'm imagining it's an ice and snow type zanpaktou. Maybe it involves, like, cause, like, maybe direct combat is not her thing, and zanpaktous reflect the nature of their user, so maybe it's more about, like, you know, creating, basically mist or a frozen cloud of snow or something around the perimeter, maybe like an environmental thing. Maybe she could impart Kaido into the snow to, like, heal people. That would be actually a really cool, like, an area of effect kind of thing, where she activates, like, Itegumo, and then she, like, spins it in the air like a wand or something, and then snow kind of billows out of the blade. Not exactly like Rukia's Sode no Shirayuki or Toshiro's. It's not combat-based snow, it's healing-based. Or she can channel Kido through it. So she can either use it with Kaido to heal people, or she could spread the snow around the battlefield and then use it like a conduit for, like, Bakudos or Hados. You know, so she could do Hado, Sokatsui, and, like, pound the ground, but, like, anything that's touching the snow would get, like, electrocuted by it or something. Like, maybe that's a cool premise. Or a defensive ability, you know, like she could use the frozen clouds to, like, create, like, a snow shield or something, or snow armor, like an igloo, and so people can't get into it or something, and, like, they try to touch it and they get frozen. I'm just trying to come up with something unique, because we already have a lot of other ice and snow type zanpaktous. We have Toshiro's and we have Rukia's, and both of those are in different ways, but they're still very combat centric. You know, Toshiro's is of course combat centric. He can control the heavens with Hyorimaru, and then Rukia's is a little bit more elegant. She has the dances and everything, and her bankai is more of like a one burst kind of technique, but still used for combat, definitely. It would be cool if we're going to introduce another snow and ice themed zanpaktou, it would have a completely different angle, a more supportive, healing, or defensive angle than Rukia's and Toshiro's do, right? But unfortunately, we never get to see that, although, since she does become the captain of the 4th Division by the end of the story, therefore, she knows bankai. We just never get to see it. So it's kind of hard for me to guess. It would be a type of snow or ice-based bankai. That's all I got, because we don't even get that or anything in the light novels or anything, and very well, as soon as we see this moment right here, get used to that, because that is the only time in this entire story, filler arcs or otherwise, that we see Isane release her zanpaktou. The only other time I think her zanpaktou's name is even referenced is at the very beginning of the zanpaktou filler. I remember this, when everybody doesn't really know what's happening yet, the zanpaktous are not, like, manifesting quite yet. It might have been like the first episode. The Shinigami are just kind of going around and saying that their swords are acting a little weird, right? And so there's a scene where Rangiku is, like, complaining that, like, you know, Haineko's not listening to me when I'm trying to meditate. And Isane's there, and she's just like, oh yes, now that you mention it, my Itegumo has been acting a little strange as well. That's all we get. I think that is the second and only time in the entire anime where Itegumo is even mentioned by name. And throughout the entirety of the zanpaktou filler, we can assume that her zanpaktou did get stolen, it did get manifested by Muramasa. We never see it. We never see her fight with it, or get the ability back, or to see, and that would have been perfect. That would have been the perfect time. Her sword doesn't even get filler material. Like, really? You know, it's just like, wow. It's just like, you're not going to use that. The only thing I could think of there, even this doesn't make a lot of sense, but, you know, Kubo was the one to design the zanpaktou spirits in that arc, right? He wasn't the writer for everything, but he was the one that designed the spirits, right? So that makes me think, like, they either just did not care enough about Isane, like, we have enough zanpaktou spirits, we have enough filler material, we don't even need Isane for this, or they might have went to Kubo and be like, can you design Isane zanpaktou? And maybe Kubo might have been like, you know, because there's other lieutenants we don't get to see their swords either, like Yachiru's. We don't get to see Sampo Kenju in the zanpaktou filler, and maybe that's the reason, because Kubo wanted to do, well, I want to do something special with that in the final arc, like what Sampo Kenju's gonna be, and then what Yachiru, like her relationship with Kenpachi, and like how does that even work, right? So that's the reason why that might have been a really big spoiler to reveal that at that point, right? Same thing with Nemu, why Nemu's zanpaktou doesn't even really appear in the story, right? There's more to going on with this. So maybe maybe they went to Kubo and they were like, can you design Isane's zanpaktou? Or they gave him a list, and he decided, I don't want to use Isane's Itegumo because I'm thinking maybe I'll do something with her later in the last arc. And then he just didn't. Maybe he decided against it, or he's like, he didn't have enough time, or he's just like, yeah, I want to focus on Kenpachi rather. Because I'll tell you, they don't fight against Gremmy right away. Remember how that encounter went was it was Isane there in, like, hiding a place in the Soul Society, or the Vandente, I guess. You know, the Vandenreich, Vandente. It's been a while since I used that phrase. You know, the Soul Society when it was combined with the Vandenreich. And so she's there healing Rose and Kensei after their battles, and Yachiru's there with her to kind of protect her and everything. And then it wasn't Gremmy that first showed up, it was Gwenaël Lee, who was the creation of Gremmy, who was the vanishing point, that, like, you know, the Stern Ritter that was created with the visionary powers, with the power of imagination, right? So I thought it would have been cool to see Isane and Yachiru fight together against this fake Stern Ritter, and then they could succeed, they could win, they could kill him, or, like, mortally wound him, and then it could be like, wow, Isane and Yachiru took out a Stern Ritter, that's awesome! And then you find out, well, actually he was an artificial creation of the real Stern Ritter V. So it would kind of be like, they're strong, and they were able to fight against a Stern Ritter-like entity, but they weren't able to take out the real Stern Ritter V. And then that's when you have Kenpachi show up, and then that's when you have their fight beginning, right? So yeah, the fight with Gwenaël Lee, I think only lasted like one chapter in the manga, and that was mostly to focus on Yachiru's Sanpo Kenju. I think you could have maybe extended it for maybe one more chapter, though. It would have been cool to see Sanpo Kenju, like, you know, Yachiru does her sword technique to slice down Gwenaël Lee, and then he dodges it or whatever, and then he does something to turn the tables on Yachiru, and then that's when Isane steps in and activates, you know, Itegumo, maybe creates you know, not a smoke screen, but a snow screen, creates a snow screen, or, you know, some kind of Kido or Kaido attack to, like, heal Yachiru or block it, create a snow barrier or something like that, of that nature, and then you have, like, a really cool scene of Isane stepping in, like, you know, I'm still a lieutenant, I'm, you know, just, I'm scared of getting into this war, of getting into this fight, I'm not a combatant, but I still have a zanpaktou, I can still do stuff. And then you have a moment maybe where Itegumo and Sanpo Kenju combine their techniques together to make a giant snow blade or something. You know, because Yachiru's is definitely more focused on combat. You could have had something like that. That would have been cool, right? Right? Yeah, that would have been neat. But no, it just ends with Yachiru about to get beaten down, then, you know, Gwenaël Lee is destroyed basically by Gremmy, because Gremmy just gets bored with him. Like, I'm bored with you, poof. And then freaking Kenpachi shows up, and then the real fight gets on, right? After that, yeah, I can't really think of anything else that Isane really does. And she didn't even really do anything there. She was just kind of present, you know? Nope, can't really think of much of anything. Does she even go to the Soul Palace? I think she does? She does go to the Soul Palace? Maybe? I vaguely remember her there, but yeah, no. So, yeah, ISANE KOTETSU! I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a really interesting one, certainly. I mean, like I said, it's like it's like Chojuro, not as much as with Chojuro, and I just realized Chojuro and ISANE, they have similar hairstyles. They have the same kind of, like, gray-colored hair. Interesting. But at any rate, yeah, don't get to do much. She gets more screen time than Chojuro, but the screen time doesn't really, you know, yield anything substantial. So with that being said, I guess we'll just pick the next one, and then moving on down the line, let's see here. Here. That is my blanket. Here. What do we have? Oh! Okay, so at first I was really, I'm trying not to move my finger here. At first I was really excited because I thought it was pointing to Nemu, but I'm actually touching Iba's arm. So I guess Tetsuzaimon Iba, who also becomes the next captain and gets a damn cool pompadour at the end of the story. You know what? I'm happy to be talking about Iba next. Because more so than Chojuro, more so than Isane, Iba, man. I think Iba had some cool setup on what he was gonna do, but nothing is yielded. At least with Chojuro and Isane, you could say, okay, Kubo never really built up Chojuro all that much. We didn't have a lot of setup like, oh yeah, Chojuro, he's gonna do stuff later on. Isane, maybe, but keep in mind, once again, she's not a fighter. Iba is a fighter. He was a member of the 11th Division alongside Ikaku and Renji, and then he got transferred to the 7th Division, and him and Ikaku kind of had that battle, and they were talking about how he became like a jack of all trades, and his mother was a lieutenant before him, and, you know, like, that's setup, that's establishment. And then during Fei Karakura with the knuckle debate, there was a whole chapter focused on Iba and Ikaku having this argument about Ikaku using his bankai. That's character development, man. That is setup. That's like leading to something. Does it? I guess we'll find out next time on the GOTEI 13 Lieutenant Discussion Series. Later, everyone! It doesn't. Spoiler, it doesn't.